Let's go!
I've been seeing a ton of people asking me, what do you set this to? And everybody was like, change your rollback setting to prioritize response. It's better. Literally says for better input responsiveness. All right, from what I understand, and I don't know the actual frame data that is going into this, like how many buffer frames of delay are they using for the rollback netcode, right? In a situation where prioritized response exists, if anybody plays Fightcade, this is close to like 0, right? So no frames, or potentially like 1 frame, something very minor, meaning that you're gonna get about 1 frame of like delay so that the rollback can kick in. And what does rollback look like? It looks like stutteriness, right? So the game needs a way to hide the stutteriness. That's the way rollback netcodes works. And of course, we have confirmed that this game has actual rollback netcode. So I don't recommend response, believe it or not. I recommend response in very specific situations. And I think we'll talk about that in a second. I think standard is the way to go for this game. And to even to a degree, prioritize fluidity. I think for the majority of the audience that is playing this game, fluidity might be good because you're going to see less hitching straight up. This is less hitching. This is some hitching. This is more hitching. Prioritized response means you're kind of trusting the opponents online and you're trusting the netcode of the game to keep a really, really precise situation. If their connection's perfect and the netcode's working great and there's no problems in between, response is amazing. If you're playing your friend that's across the state, response is amazing. If they also don't have Wi-Fi, response is amazing. The problem is if you're fighting people that are kind of far away or have Wi-Fi or anything, or don't have the most pristine internet connection, this is going to make the game look like butt trash. It will look really stuttery. Because again, the game actually has real rollback, and that's the way rollback would work. Standard just adds a couple frames of input delay, meaning that your attacks are delayed by like a couple frames, maybe 3 frames. And that might seem daunting to a lot of people, but it's not. Even games like Killer Instinct use 3 to 4 frames of caked-in engine input delay for its rollback netcode. So compared to offline, you're actually like within 3 or 4 frame difference of the offline to the online. But here's the thing, KI is one of the best online fighting games ever. And it's because they have found this sweet spot that doesn't feel like it compromises the experience too much. So it's my assumption that standard is like 3-ish to maybe 4-ish frames. Maybe somewhere in there. It might seem like a lot to some or not a lot to others, but what that does allow is for the netcode to have some frames to work with. It's going to look forward, oh god, something else happened, let's go back. Well, if that happens within 16, 32, 48 milliseconds, it can literally fix it without you ever noticing. That's the way rollback netcode works. Rollback netcode needs input delay for it to even function. So the same thing is in Fightcade. When you fight people that are really far away, you have to add a little bit of input delay in order to make it not a stuttery mess. So for my situation, I'm fighting people across the world. We're just playing in ranks. I'm playing against Wi-Fi players. Does it fix everything? It doesn't, but in my experience, I think that like 90% of my matches are good. Tag 2 had insane input delay. Like we recently played it on Xbox One, and it's just crazy how much input delay they caked into the whole game because they also had delay-based netcode in that game, and it was bad, but their solution was we'll just delay the entire game. We'll just slow everything down on inputs, including the online, so that when you go online, your experience doesn't feel as compromised. But it still could get even worse. The great thing about Tekken is that most of the time I don't feel like we're caking on input delay all the time. But here's the thing. You could prioritize fluidity. For a lot of people, if you prioritize this or this, you know, take standard or response, you're going to be missing the first few frames of animation of some moves. Again, it's actual rollback netcode. They really did it. It was hard to tell if it was actual rollback, but I have legit seen moments where I run at somebody, I kick them, it says KO for like a frame or 2, and then it goes back. Because that didn't actually happen. The game state reverts back to what actually happened and not what was in the rift, which is like, did this happen or not? And it goes back to like, oh, we got real netcode. If you're seeing shit like that happen, I would honestly prioritize fluidity. You might be getting like a 3 to 5 frame input delay, maybe a little bit more, but this is probably the closest to what Tekken 7 felt like for the majority of matches. Of course, if you were really close to somebody in Tekken 7, it felt fine, but a lot of your games did not feel fine. They felt like they were adding input delay even at a base standard. This would probably be the best bet to make it feel like Tekken 7. I have not messed around with fluidity, but I've already seen some people on Twitter and in my chat saying that like they actually use this. to feel more like Tekken 7 so you don't miss out on forward movement, and you don't miss out on the startup frames of some animations, and you don't miss out on pretty much reacting to shit, because if things are like 16 to 20 frames, you're gonna have to start really reacting to what they look like. And prioritized fluidity would be good for that. And honestly would, because it's just gonna preserve your block inputs to go at the right time. What is the caveat? More input delay. That's it. So, all you gotta know, more input delay, but a smoother visual experience. This might be something closer to what Tekken 7 sort of does. This is somewhere right in the middle. This is what I like to play at. I can play against Wi-Fi people. A lot of them are fine, you know, and they're not stuttery, and they're hitchy every once in a while. And some are just really bad. Can't fix somebody's bad Wi-Fi. And then you got prioritized response, which is just hoping that the other person has a good connection. You're hoping your connection's also good, and you're hoping that they're not really far away. Because in any of those situations, prioritized response is going to cause a ton of hitching. You're going to see characters jumping, not your character, but their character jumping around all the time. Because the game is trying to catch up to where they're actually at, and it honestly needs the delay of standard or fluidity, unless it's a perfect connection. So that's my recommendation. I would only be using prioritized response if somebody is like right next door to you, or if they're in the same state, right? Or you both have really good connections. I can probably play somebody in the East Coast. If they both had like fiber or connected, no Wi-Fi, it'd probably be okay. See some stuttering, but it would probably be okay. But you're pretty much trusting all of your opponents to have great internet if you're prioritizing response.